Good morning, grade 9. Today we are going to start a new chapter, chapter 7. This chapter speaks about animal reproduction and behavior. We mentioned in chapter 6 how animals obtain and digest food, how animals obtain oxygen, and the circulation and the excretion by animal. In this chapter we speaks about reproduction and the behavior of the animals. Lesson 1 in this chapter speak about reproduction and fertilization. All of you know all animals species reproduce. Why? For survival the species. Yes, for survival the species. So all animal species reproduce. Some animals produce offspring identical to the parent, and most animals, including humans, produce offspring that are different from the parents. Why animals produce offspring identical and other animals produce different offsprings? This is due to two types of reproduction. Animals reproduce asexually and other animals reproduce sexually. So animals undergo either asexual or sexual reproduction to make more of their kind or species. When we speak about asexual, I mean this process happens through one parent only or single parent, but sexual means two parents. Okay, so asexual reproduction process by which single parent reproduces by itself, and the offspring in this case is identical. So the offspring that produced due to asexual reproduction always identical to their parent. Why? Because the same genetic material copy itself and pass to the offspring. So the offspring becomes what? Becomes the same as parent. So identical to the parent. The most common way the animal undergo through asexual reproduction, budding. Budding is the most common form of asexual reproduction. Budding means a new animal grows out of the parent and breaks up or separates itself from the main body. When the genetic material passes from the main body to the small part, so the small part grows and separates itself, and the separate one become identical as the main body, and this is act as a new offspring or a new organism that receives exact copy of the parent set of genetic material. So the advantage of asexual reproduction happen quickly. This way happens quickly, produce quickly many identical offspring. But is there any disadvantage for this way? Yes. The disadvantage of asexual reproduction or of offspring that result from asexual reproduction, these all offsprings are with same DNA or are identical. Yes, as I told you. So when the offspring with identical form cannot or may not survive a change in the environment, So this is act as disadvantage. Offspring have the same DNA as the parent and they may not survive changes in the environment. Yes? Look at some examples of asexual reproduction for invertebrates. Some types of invertebrates that undergo asexual reproduction, like jellyfish, sea animals, worms, a hydra type of cnidaria. Look at this part of worm. When cut itself into two halves, what happens? Each half grow the missing part and becomes new one again. Okay, look at hydra. Small part grows from the main body, and this part receives DNA and grows identical as the main body. Look at this part with 4 arms, also the new one with 4 arms. The offspring cut itself and separated. Happens quickly. Yes, happens quickly. What about sexual reproduction? Sexual reproduction process that depend or involves 2 parents. Each parent with its own genetic material. So what happened? Fertilization happened between the 2 different body of the 2 parents. So I have male and female. Sexual reproduction depends on 2 bodies, male and female. So we have female cells and male cells. Female cells called eggs and male cells called sperms. So when male cell and female cell, the 2 different cells combine or join together, fertilization happens. Yes, fertilization happens and the embryo formed. So reproductive process that involves 2 parents that combine their genetic material. So what happened? The offspring with different genetic materials, because the offspring result from the combination between 2 genetic materials. So they produce new organism with different genetic material, so it looks different. It looks different from their parents. Okay, so the new offspring looks different from both parents, with DNA differ from both. Is there advantage for sexual reproduction? Yes, new combination produce new generation with new properties. Okay, new combination of DNA can survive a change environment. Also can survive changes in the environment, because I have new generation with new properties or new characteristics due to combination of 2 different DNA genetic materials produce a lot of offsprings with different shapes. Okay, is there any disadvantage for sexual reproduction? It takes time. Sure, it takes time, and have to find a mate. Offspring that formed due to combination of 2 different parents, or 2 different genetic materials of 2 different parents. So have to find each parent or each partner have to find the other partner to mate with them. Yes, يبقى لازم يلاقي partner عشان يعمل mating معاه. وبالتالي development of a spring sure takes time. Maybe takes more than days, maybe takes more than months. Yes, so this takes time. This is disadvantage of sexual reproduction. Sure, all vertebrates undergo sexual reproduction. All vertebrates undergo sexual reproduction. Look at the sponges and cnidarian. Both are invertebrates that undergo sexual and asexual. Both of them. Yes. Asexual means budding, as I told you. Budding, and the new one separate itself from the body with the same genetic material. Sponges and cnidarians have life cycles that alternate between sexual and asexual. Look at sponges' life cycle. When the main body or the adult can release cells for male and female. Male release sperm cells and female release egg cells. So when the sponge body undergoes releasing cells, so in this case I can say this is adult sponge. Yes, adult sponge releases sperm cells. So when release sperm cells, so it will undergo what? It will undergo the sexual reproduction. What happens? The sperm cell find egg cells to fertilize it. After fertilization, a larva develops. Larva, this is new one from the combination of 2 different cells. Okay, larva develop, and the larva leaves the body. Look at when the larva leaves the body in water. Sure, sponge and the cnidarians are aquatic invertebrates, live in water, and the sponge body fixed in the ground. So the larva moves, the sperm moves, but the body, the main body fixed in the ground. So the larva lives and swim in the water. The larvae settle on hard surface and develop into adult sponge. Okay, this is sexually. But what happens when the sponge cannot find any cells? So in this case, it can copy genetic materials and form or emerge part. The genetic materials transfer through this part, and new offspring formed, breaks itself or separate itself from the whole body. Larva, what's meant by larva? Larva immature form. Immature يعني means غير ناضجة. Mature يعني ناضج, able to reproduce, but immature cell. This is larva that formed of animal and looks very different from adult. Look, there is a big difference between larva and main body of the sponge. Sponges also, as I told you, reproduces asexual and sexually. Asexual as producing new body through budding. What about other type of invertebrates that live also in water? Cnidarians also reproduce sexually and asexually. The main body or the adult one of the cnidarian called medusa. Medusa is the adult one that carries the cells, that carry sperm cells of male. When it releases in water, this sperm cells search for egg cells and fertilize it and develops larva. Larva swim in water. The larva attaches to hard surface also as sponge and develop into polyps. This is new stage, not like sponge. Look at the polyp, a bright vase. Looks like a bright vase. Yes, and fix itself, and it can copy itself, make budding, make a sexual reproduction through budding, and copies itself like this and produces a lot of polyps. Yes, so when it copies itself, so this is undergo a sexual reproduction through a way called budding. But when the one polyp after development, it can form the medusa. The medusa carries the cells, male or female, and they can undergo sexually reproduction. What medusa looks like? Looks like the umbrella, open the umbrella. Yes, look at the umbrella, open the umbrella. This is medusa, but polyp like a bright vase, but medusa like umbrella. Look, open the umbrella. This is life cycle of the jellyfish. Start by adult one. The adult one releases cells, and the cells, different cells combine and fertilize itself. The sperm fertilize egg and produce or develop larvae that develop into polyp. The polyp can undergo both sexually and asexually. Asexually, it can transfer or copy itself into a lot of polyps, or the polyp develop into medusa that carries different cells and can undergo sexually reproduction again. What about the fertilization that happen due to combination between sperm cell and egg cell? We have two types of fertilization: external fertilization and internal fertilization. Yes, internal fertilization, this is include the body itself, but external fertilization out body. So the external happens out body, like what happened in the cnidarian. This is external fertilization. Yes, unlike sponge outside the body, this is external fertilization. So external fertilization occurs when eggs are fertilized outside the female body. The most common one, fish. Yes, fish in water. Fishes in water releases a lot of cells. The male release sperm and female release the egg. When male find an egg, yes, it can fertilize it and produce the larva. Okay, and also amphibians, the fertilization happens in water. Yes, so most aquatic invertebrates and vertebrates that live in water the fertilization happen externally outside the body. Yes, so a lot of eggs and a lot of sperms are destroyed due to water currents. So the fish or the aquatic invertebrates release huge number of eggs, huge number of eggs. The eggs that fertilized, okay, and the eggs that destroyed, okay. Also, a lot of male releases a lot of sperms, the huge number of sperms. Some live and find the egg that fertilize it, and the other destroyed due to water current. After fertilization between two different cells, the larva or the new body develop from the combination of two different cells. The fertilization takes place in water to prevent the eggs and sperms from drying out. Yes, so female releases eggs into water, then male releases sperm. This is the sequence. The male releases eggs first, and then male releases sperm and fertilization happens. What about internal? Internal, the fertilization happens inside the female body. Yes, the mammal and birds undergoes internal fertilization. Yes, the mammals and birds undergo internal fertilization. Internal fertilization, the mammal's offspring continue to develop inside the female animal. But for bird, after fertilization, the female bird lays eggs and set on these eggs to keep it warm until the eggs hatch. Okay, so the female then gives birth to live young. Most invertebrates and many fish, amphibians, reptiles, and birds lay eggs outside parent body. Yes, the offspring continue to develop inside the eggs. What about gestation period? The length of time between fertilization and birth, and this is not constant, vary from animal to animal. Gestation periods range between days until a lot of months, like elephant. The gestation period for elephant almost 22 months, almost 2 years. The advantage of external fertilization. What is the advantage? Many eggs, advantage and disadvantage. Advantage of external fertilization, the parent do not care about the eggs. This is advantage. يعني الparent ما بتبقاش do not worry about what happened to the eggs. But disadvantage of external fertilization, eggs will not be fertilized. Some eggs or many eggs will not be fertilized. And also offsprings are not protected by parents. The fish lay eggs and leave it in water. Yes, amphibian lay eggs and leave it in water. Okay, we have two types of animals that undergo internal fertilization. And the gestation period differ from one to one. Opossums have shortest gestation periods, around 13 days only. 13 days only. And the opposite, African elephants have longest gestation period, up to 22 months. 22 months. Thank you, all of you. We did first lesson in chapter 7, animal reproduction and fertilization.